Dennis Miller is one of my stable mates here at Westwood One. You know him way back from Comedian Days, Saturday Night Live, and the rest of it, and he's on our program today. Dennis, how are you?
How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing fine. So you've done it all. I mean, you've done the stand-up, you've done your own television show, you've done HBO specials, the rest of it. Talk radio is something new to you. Is it what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, I like it. I've been doing it for 3 weeks and a couple shows now, and I don't think my politics are easily encapsulated anymore, so I like the extrapolated horizon line of the 3 hours a day.
Yeah, it gives you a little chance to explain, right?
Yeah, I can explain. I'm getting sick of people judging me in a Rorschach manner.
Well, they do.
Let them listen to me for 3 hours and figure me out.
Well, they do. They like to pigeonhole people, and you're either a conservative or you're a liberal or you're a communist or whatever you are. And
yeah, well, I'm libertarian
define
on most things. I just want to kill radical Islamic fundamental terrorists before they kill us.
So, what do you think about this? When we talk about killing, this shooting yesterday? I mean, and I don't know how far you've come in your walk since 9/11, but it seems to me that if we'd had somebody in school at Virginia Tech that was armed, we could have stopped this nut.
Well, I would say this. I'm intrigued by the man Levieux Lebrescu, the Holocaust survivor.
Well, wasn't that something kind of story?
I think you have a millisecond to recognize the face of evil. And I think a guy like Lebrescu, who hasn't been brought up in an era where everything is homogenized, or we try to figure out everybody's childhood, or why they might be distraught, or why they might be doing something this insane, but just a guy who was raised and escaped the Holocaust. I think he looks up and you've got a millisecond, and his flashcard reaction is, that's the face of evil. I'm blocking that door.
Right.
I think that millisecond saves your life. I think we've done that out of a lot of people nowadays. I think we're taught to immediately think, what did we do to deserve this, or what did we do wrong? But I think Flight 93 started turning it. I think now that there's an understanding, a tacit understanding between us and evildoers, that if you go up the aisle a little too fast towards the cockpit, you're probably going to catch an elbow upside the temple. I really believe that we're talking primal stuff here. And I just was enamored of the Lebrescu guy, that he had yet to have this survival thing drummed out of him.
Did you see any irony, though, as I did, that he's 75 years old, Holocaust survivor, and then his life is ended this way by some nutcase in America?
I think if you had to ask that man how he would want his life to be ended, I'd say that if he had to pick away off a multiple-choice question, this might be the way he would pick.
Yep.
To think that most of us are allotted 75 years as per the actuary tables, and on a day that they were celebrating Holocaust Remembrance Day in Israel, to think that he was presented with this opportunity to stand up to an evil bully and save the life of other youngsters, in some ways, we should all be gifted with such a way to go.
Well, how about this for irony? He was probably saved by American GIs many years ago, and then he gets to return the favor yesterday.
Well, all I know is that we're all going someday. And if I ever have a chance to save kids when I'm 75, it's like any screenplay you see where they talk about the old you go ahead, save the kids. Well, he saved the kids, so God bless him. He's an immortal now.
So what do we do from here? I mean, as far as keeping this kind of stuff from happening again on college campuses, or is there nothing really we can do other than to remain vigilant?
Well, there's nothing we can do except we all learn by osmosis some lessons. If you have a roommate who over the course of 2 to 3 months doesn't talk to you, and if you see a kid turning in one-act plays that are all about killing and stuff like that in grisly manners, and if you have a kid who set fire to a hotel room in the past, and if you have a kid who's been accused of stalking people, I think we're going to have to start putting these tea leaves together, whether we want to be deemed to be politically incorrect or not.
No kidding. I mean, it was all, and of course you get the classic thing, he was a loner. That's what they always say. This guy,
I'd start calling all loners in for talks. I would. And if somebody says, well, that's crazy, guess what? It's not as crazy as what I was watching on the news yesterday.
Yeah.
If a kid is a creepy loner, I'd call him into the guidance office and say, listen, you got to explain to me why you're being a creepy loner, because you're weirding everybody.
All right, let's get back to your radio show. You have come out of the gate like a bullet. I mean, you're on 70-some stations now, and just
We're on 86, my friend.
86.
We're doing all right. Yeah.
See, I didn't get the update today.
Just signed up DC, I think, or we're about to, and yeah, I'm kind of, listen, I didn't know what to make of it at first. You intellectualize whether you like it or not. I actually dig it. I like talking. I didn't know I would. I've always been kind of a reserved guy. I've talked, in milliseconds, like I'll come on Leno and have a bulimic purge for a few minutes, but I kind of like the fact that you sit down and you get to know your audience a little. It's sort of an encounter group. I tell you what, it helped me today. I don't know about you, but on days like this where I'd ordinarily be walking around in my own head thinking, what the hell's going on with the world, you're at least able to chat people up and feel like part of the brotherhood of man.
Well, that's what I've told you. This is my own therapy. It keeps me from going to a shrink. I mean, when you can sit here for 3-4 hours a day and talk about whatever you want to talk about, I mean, that's exactly what you do. You go to a psychiatrist, and then all they do is just sit there and nod their head and ask you questions. Well, what do you think about that? Well, I ask myself that question and then run with it for 4 hours.
Well, it points out to me that some days you're going to be talking about things that are supposedly serious stories and aren't really that serious. And some days you're going to be talking about actually serious stories. To think that before this, I spent the last 3 days talking about Imus. Oh, and by the way, between Imus and the death of the great Hawaiian singer, you got to admit last week was the worst week ever for the word ho. But the fact is that there are days when you are going to be summoned to talk about serious things. I saw that today. And then there are other days where you're going to have to fill it with stuff that we pretend is serious. But guess what? It isn't that serious.
Well, let's talk about the Imus thing for a second, because you're new to talk radio, but I've been in it a while. I do not for one moment condone the comments that he made, but I saw with the FCC today is they said that then they're not going to further their investigation because he was not cursing, he was just insulting somebody. What kind of effect is this going to have on people like you and me who have talk shows that we have to watch what we're saying?
Nothing. Are you within 1,000,000 miles of saying nappy-headed ho?
No.
Well, I'm not either. So guess what? It's not going to affect me in any way, shape, or form. To think you would look at a team of young women who just finished second in the NCAA basketball tournament and somehow condense that down to nappy-headed ho? Do I think it's an offense where they put you up against a firing squad? No. Do I think it's really stupid and enough to drive advertisers off and let the marketplace take hold and you get whacked? Of course I do.
Well, that's what happened, though, because
sure it was. Leslie Moonves was just the face on it.
That's right. He wasn't upset when he said it.
Said, do the right thing. That's like mafia TV code for this guy's gone because Procter & Gamble just went out the door with a big check. But you know what? At the end of the day, when it was rude, he owes them an apology, but when I hear a young woman from the Rutgers team say she's scarred for the rest of her life, I just want to say, honey, it's going to get worse than that. Life is a tough thing, and to let a crazy old guy like Imus get in your head that much when you're 19, you're giving him too much credit.
Well, I think people want to be a victim, though, don't they? I mean, not taking anything away from them.
Yeah, they were the victim of a rude, insensitive,
but that's where
stupid remark. But you know what? There's victimization, and then there's yesterday. You know what I mean? You're a parent who gets a call about a kid. Listen, Imus should be water off their back. He did what he had to do. Moonves did what he had to do. To me, this whole thing went off like dominoes. It's exactly the way it plays out. You say something that's stupid, something's going to happen. Moonves isn't going to whack you till he sees he has to whack you for money.
Right.
Redstone calls and says, listen, it's time to do it. Les Moonves does it and puts his spin on it, but the simple fact is he was dead the moment it stopped making money. Guess what? Any of us are. Now, do I think Imus should be marked like Hester Prynne with a scarlet A for the rest of his life? No. He's like any human being. He slipped up. Do I think those girls should be marked for the rest of their life? No. I think they got to move on from it. Wasn't that big a deal. It was a stupid, insensitive remark, but brace up. Like the Sherpa says, put one foot in front of the other, my friend. And, the whole thing worked. To me, it worked. It's like the Dixie Chicks. When that happened, everybody's, this is an atrocity. It worked the way it should have worked.
The market worked.
It's the marketplace, for God's sake. I remember when that first happened, I thought, I'll never buy another Dixie Chick album. And then I said, guess what? I've never bought one up to this point. It's the marketplace.
I was in the same boat that you were. Well, appreciate you taking the time. And again, welcome. I understand you're doing a great job out there, and we wish you the best of success.
Just a young kid with a dream, brother. I appreciate you your time. Have a good
Appreciate
one.
it. Thank you, Dennis.
Late, Phil.
All right, Dennis Miller.